YouTube, it's Missy, and today I'm here to share with you guys my November wrap-up. I will be doing a Vlogmas from now until I run out of ideas, so today I'm pretty sure this is going to be Vlogmas Day 3. The next couple days I won't say it in my videos just in case I decide to upload the videos in a different order. Anywho, in the month of November I did read 5 full books and I started 3. So let's get started. The first book, well, this is in no particular order, but it is the smallest in the pile, is Greener Pastures by Michael Wehunt. We did receive this book in the Nocturnal Readers box. This is a collection of short stories. I did start this back in October. I buddy read it with Maddie over at the Maddie Hatter. I will leave her channel link down below. When it comes to short story collections, I'm usually on the fence, and I've said this before in previous videos. Most of the time I either love all of the stories or I hate most of the stories. This time around it's a 60-40 split. Up until story 7, all of the stories were really good, and so I did give this a 4-star rating. I did quite enjoy the writing. Michael Wehunt is someone to definitely look for. I would like to read more of his books in the future, but I want to talk about a few that I really enjoyed. The first one I want to talk about is Greener Pastures, and if I can remember, that's on page 33. Yes, okay, so Greener Pastures is about two truck drivers that are in a cafe eating. There's one that's very quiet and he's like, you know, sitting there eating his food, and another truck driver comes by and sits down with him and starts gabbing about how weird it is being a truck driver and the darkness in between towns, and it was really creepy, and it was kind of like a ghost story. He was saying, how don't you feel that there's something in the blackness in between cities, like where it's just open road and we're just traveling? Don't you feel the darkness coming? And then all of a sudden that talkative trucker just gets up and walks away, and the guy who's sitting there eating is like totally confused, and when he looks out the window he sees the lights starting to turn off in the parking lot, and that really freaks him out. So that was a very good story. The only other one I want to talk about, there were a lot. Well, 1 through 6 were really good. The other one I want to say, though, is the October Film Hunt, which is Under the House. That was on page 75. And this one gave me a Blair Witch Project type of vibe. It's about a group of guys who are really into indie films, indie horror films, and a short film was published on YouTube and has since been taken down. But when the guys were able to watch this horror short flick, it was about this house and how it was kind of haunted, and these guys went over there and went camping, and then everyone died, and they want to know if this is a true tale or if the person who made the film kind of like made it up, kind of like the Blair Witch Project, because that film was handheld and it was to be almost like a documentary style horror, and so they want to check it out and see if it's true or not. And they just so happened to find the house that was filmed in the movie, and they go and they hang out there and they stay the night, and what happens after that. Very, very, very good. Really, really like that. I wish it was a longer story. So overall, if you haven't picked this up, but you do get the Nocturnal Readers box, I would definitely pick this up soon. I really enjoyed it. Again, 4 stars. The next book that I finished in November, again this is in no particular order, is The Misadventures of Edgar and Allan Poe. This is book 3, The Pet and the Pendulum, by Gordon McAlpine and illustrated by Sam Zappardi. This was a cute ending to this trilogy. Again, it's about twin boys, Edgar and Allan. They are the descendants of the famous author Edgar Allan Poe. It's like the 7th great nephew on the Poe side or whatever. The twins have a special bond beyond normal twins. They have like this telepathy where whatever one sees, so does the other. Whatever one thinks, so does the other. It's like they have one mind but two bodies. In the first book, we meet the twins. They're getting kicked out of their school, and the principal is saying it's because they have done too much mischief. They have made too many pranks, and he's tired of it, and so he's like banishing them from that school. But in all reality, there is a evil plan afoot, and the evil villain of the book has had a henchman come and speak to the principal, and because they already have a history, the principal's down with kicking them out. So the evil man wants the twins for nefarious reasons, and we go from there. And then in the second book, we see the twins again, but they are in New Orleans, and that was such a cute little ghost story in and of itself. And then we have Pet and the Pendulum, and just like in all of these books are based on a real Edgar Allan Poe story. This one, the boys have to face the pendulum, and that was really scary. But it was a very good, happy ending. I really enjoyed it. My kids were very sad that there were no more adventures with Edgar and Allan. If you like Edgar Allan Poe, you'll definitely like this really cute middle grade. There are illustrations in it. That's just a car. It speaks a lot about Edgar's stories, and all of the gray bits is Edgar Allan's point of view from the afterlife, where he is watching over his great nephews. It's really, really cute. So if you like Edgar and Allan, I would definitely pick this up. I gave this 4 stars as well. Alright, next I have Stephen King's the 4th book in the Dark Tower series, The Wizard and the Glass, or Wizard and Glass. Gosh, I can't tell you enough how much I am enjoying this series. And I'm going to give you guys a little bit of insight. The way I told, well, okay, let's backtrack. Penelope and I were talking about the Dark Tower series over, text message, and she was asking me, well, what is it about? Why would I want to read it? Like, what makes it so good? Why do you like it? And I've come to realize, and then this is just my interpretation. Please, if you do not like The Labyrinth, do not take what I'm saying at face value. So, I am comparing this series to The Labyrinth because I absolutely love The Labyrinth. So we have Roland of Gilead, and I'm going to say that he is like Sarah. She's on a quest. She's trying to find her brother. If you have not seen the movie, why? It's amazing. So Sarah's trying to find her brother. That's the thing that she's looking for. Roland is looking for the Dark Tower. He meets people along the way. So does Sarah. There is like a wizard or a magician, or in this world, and Sarah has to face the Goblin King, and Roland has to face this magician wizard man throughout all the books. So we have that. We have the world itself. Sarah goes through the maze. Roland goes through the different, it's not dimensions, but there are other worlds than these. So there is Earth, and there are different versions of Earth, and Roland is part of a different version of our Earth, but it's like a future of ours that has, totally moved on, and they're back into the old ways without technology and everything. So yeah, I just absolutely love this series. I am currently reading book 5, which, I have it here. so I don't actually have to, you know, put up a picture. This is Wolves of the Kala. I'm currently reading this. I believe I'm on chapter 7. I did purchase this on the Amazon Marketplace, so hopefully it comes this week because I hate not knowing what actual page number I am on. But anyways, in book 4, Roland and his quartet find themselves in a different version of Earth again, and they meet the wizard, and he gives them like an ultimatum, like, you know, if you don't stop trying to get to the Dark Tower, you're gonna be sorry. And they decide that, you know, no, we're gonna continue doing what we're doing. But most of this book is Roland's past. Now, in my review, which I leave all of my Goodreads reviews in my wrap-ups down below, I want to say 75% of this book is Roland when he was 14 in Magus, when he meets Susan Delgado. And if you have read the graphic novel Gunslinger for this series, the Gunslinger Volume 1 tells you a lot, like spoils you hardcore for this book, which was kind of a bummer. If I hadn't been spoiled from the graphic novel, I think I would have rated this book a little bit higher. It's just, I gave it 4 stars, but I would have given it like a 5 if I hadn't already known it was coming, if that makes sense. So Susan Delgado is like a girl who lives in Magus, and her father used to be a rancher who, you know, had horses, and he passed away, and now Susan is going to be called, it's called a gilly, or like a concubine to the mayor of this town, because his wife can't bear any children, and so he's hoping that Susan will bear his child. But then Roland comes in to town, and the two fall in love, and then there's whole like background with the coffin hunters and how the good man is coming to destroy the world with ancient weapons from the past, from the old people, and Roland needs to figure out a way to stop it. But in the meantime, he's falling in love with Susan Delgado, his one and only love his entire life, and things just keep progressing worse and worse and worse. My absolute worst villain of this would be what's her name? Rhea of the Coos. I despised that old witch. She was horrid. Like, I would take the coffin hunters over her any day. Yeah, so I really, I mean, even though I knew what was happening, there was obviously more detail in this story. I could go on, and I've already been talking about The Wizard in Glass for like 5 minutes. I love this series. If you are afraid of picking this up because you think it's a Western, and it's not, okay? It's fantasy. Yes, Roland spends most of his time in a desert, and the people that he meets are like cowboy kind of people, vaqueros they call them in this story. He's not like the sheriff, you know what I mean? He's not, just read it. Just read it. Please just read it. It's so good. All right. The next book that I started in October and finished in November is My Best Friend's Exorcism by Grady Hendrix. I do own his first book, Horror Store, which I have not started yet, but I did enjoy this one. I gave this I gave this 4 stars. This is an exorcism story. I don't know how to explain it. A lot of the points is because I love the way that this book was set up. So we have here, it looks like a legit yearbook, okay? Like a legit yearbook. And then it talks about the 2 best friends. Now, I haven't read this in a while, so let me look up the girls again. There's Gretchen. Is that the main character? Abby. I think it's Abby and Gretchen. Yes. Okay. So Abby and Gretchen live in South Carolina, Charleston, South Carolina. They've been best friends since Abby had a birthday party when she was like 7 and no one showed up but Gretchen. So they've been best friends ever since. One day on Halloween, they decide that they're going to do acid for the first time. And their little group of friends, it's not working on anybody. They think they may have gotten the wrong batch, or maybe this was a dud or whatever. But Gretchen goes off like she's going to go swimming, and then the girls like lose her like almost the entire night. They're searching for her and they can't find her. But in the morning, she like crawls out of this abandoned cabin in the woods, and from there on she has been changed. She's been possessed by a demon. Abby is the only person who is trying to help Gretchen. Like, she's getting in trouble with everybody, with the principal, with her parents, with all of the friends. She tries to speak to Gretchen's parents and no one believes her, and she's becoming more and more of an outcast because it's just so far-fetched and everyone is thinking that she's on drugs or something. There's also a poor versus rich in this book. So Gretchen's parents have always liked Abby even though she is poor. But once she starts talking about how Gretchen had something happen to her, the parents turn on her and say, well, you're just jealous, and that is absolutely absurd. Nothing like that would ever happen to our daughter. And so they don't believe her and they kick her out and they say that she can't come back ever again. They can't be friends anymore. So the book keeps progressing and Abby keeps digging herself in a hole. And that's like when I was really starting to hate the book. I'm like, Abby, stop opening your mouth. Figure out how to do this on your own. When it comes to the exorcism part, it was kind of cheesy in a way that, here's a tiny spoiler, okay? If you've seen Maleficent, the movie with Angelina Jolie, and you know that when the princess needed true love's first kiss to wake her up from the spell, it's kind of like that in this book, where the exorcism isn't going the way the exorcist is trying to make it. And the only way the exorcism can work is if Abby does it herself, which was very strange, so totally cheesy. But I liked it for what it was. I mean, it was, now that I'm talking about it, I would still consider it to be a 4-star because, again, I like just the way it was written. But it wasn't very scary. But everything that Gretchen did while possessed was very good. But it was a little bit cheesy. It was a lot of high school drama that I wished wasn't in here. But I guess you totally need it in order to make it work. And then the ending was very sweet, and I actually kind of teared up a little bit, so that's why I bumped it up again, because there was a lot of feels in this story. I'm rambling. If you haven't read this book and you've heard of this book, I would pick it up anyway. And it was a good Halloween read, even though I didn't finish it in October. All right, the very last book that I read in November was this beast of a graphic novel. I gave this one 3.5 stars. 3 stars for the illustrations alone. The person who drew this, Emil Ferris, phenomenal. I just, everything about this book is phenomenal. Let's just take you, because I can't really explain the story, I'm just going to show you the book itself. So we start off, and as you can see, let's get close. It looks exactly like if it was a spiral notebook. So you have like the holes, you know, that you could stick it into a binder. Of course, it's on lined paper. I love that the end pages look just like, you know, how you would scribble and doodle on the back of a spiral notebook. It's just, the details are phenomenal. All right, so we have every chapter is a new chapter head. So this one says creatures of Movieville, 55 cents. This whole story takes place in 1967. Yeah, and so we have these little like comic book, horror comic series, you know what I mean, like comic books. But each chapter has a new comic book cover. Am I making any sense? Okay. So we have here our main character. Now, she calls herself, someone calls her Carrie Ann. Her neighbor calls her Carrie Ann, but that's not her name. Her name's Karen. She's a little girl. I want to say she's in middle school. And in the whole book, she's drawn as a monster, as like a werewolf. But she's not really a werewolf. It's all a metaphor for how she's feeling. She lives in a rundown apartment in a main city. I don't know if it's New York or Chicago. I don't know. They have Broadway. I think Broadway's in New York. I'm not quite sure. But anyways, she goes on with life. Nobody likes her at school, and she hates going. Her father is in prison or gone, something like that. She's being raised by, a single mom. She has an older brother, Diz. His real name's Diego, but she calls him Diz. And, yeah, so the book goes from there. She has this neighbor. Her name is Anka, and she is from, I can't remember. She's from like the Germany area because she was part of the Nazi survivors. Oh, see, and here's another of those comic book covers. Okay, so at the very beginning of the story, Anka is murdered, or at least Karen believes she was murdered. The police think that she committed suicide, but they can't find how she killed herself and then like ended up somewhere else in the house. So Anka's missing, or not missing. Anka is dead, and Karen wants to, find out how she died. So Karen becomes like a little detective. And then the story goes from there. The thing is with this, it's just, the reason why I'm giving it 3.5 stars is because it's just all over the place. It's really hard to follow the storyline. We have so many going on. So we have Karen. This is not Karen, this is Anka. We have Karen going along throughout her life. She's trying to figure out how Anka died, but she also has to deal with her neighbors. She has to deal with bullies at school. She has to deal with her brother who has a drinking problem. He's also very promiscuous, so she has to deal with him going in and out of other women's places and, having to protect him from husbands that would be angry. And then she has to deal with her mom. She finds out her mom has a terminal cancer, so they have to deal with that. The dad wants custody of Karen so that way he can ruin the brother's life. The brother's trying to stay out of going to Vietnam for the war. He's thinking he's going to run away with Karen to Canada. Martin Luther King gets assassinated in this book. They talk about JFK and the brother being assassinated. So there's like the war going on. There's all these political issues, assassinations, on top of Karen's sick mom and this murder in her town and how it's going to shit, and everything's just, it's kind of a dismal story. And so this was on my wish list on Amazon to purchase, but because the story is not rereadable, like I would never pick this story back up, I took it off of my wish list. However, it's definitely something that you would want to read and look at least once in your life. I mean, just the way everything is set up. Again, I want to share with you. So here's just, some pictures, but there's like all these little, it's like a diary for Karen. but with all of these, it's just so gorgeous. Every single page is gorgeous. It took me about a week to read this front to back because I spent so much time looking at the pictures. So good. Anyways, those were the 5 books that I read and completed in November. I did start 3 books, like I said. So I did start Artemis by Andy Weir. I am currently on page 110. I'm almost to chapter 6. This is not a heist story on the moon, but there's this man, this rich man that lives in Artemis on the moon, and he wants to take over a main corporation, and he has hired our main character to sabotage this company in order so the rich man can, you know, buy them up and get rid of them. So it's not like a mobby kind of story, but she has to deal with a lot of stuff on top of being like super poor. So she's doing it for the money, and that's where I am so far. So she's supposed to sabotage this company, and it's all on the moon. It's very technical, not as fun to read as The Martian, I'm not gonna lie. I do enjoy the fact that this main character is very knowledgeable and smart, but at the same time, I hate the fact that she's super lazy. She has all this potential to do good and to be a part of some really amazing like guilds. Like she could definitely weld like her father. So she could be a welder, she could be a builder, she could be an engineer. She has the ability to do many things, but instead she'd rather be a porter and just kind of like, you know, deliver boxes and mail to people because it's the easiest thing to do, and then she has free time to do whatever she wants after that. So she's very, very lazy, and that drives me crazy. But so far, it's a 3-star read so far. I'm hoping once the sabotaging happens that the action will make the book pick up. All right. I'm also currently reading Bad Unicorn by Plate F. Clark. This is my second read through, or yeah, my second read through of this story. I started this in May, finished it in April or May, loved it, gave it 4 or 5 stars, and but I read it to myself. Now my 12-year-old is making me read it out loud to him at night, and I'm again loving the story. It is so fun. I'm currently on chapter 12, which is 136 pages in. If you haven't picked up this book, I highly recommend. It's a fantasy with the fairy world, or the fairyland world, and the human world. There is Max, the main character, and he has his 2 sidekicks, Dirk and Sarah, and they also have a little dwarf that's helping them along, Dwight, and they're trying to defend the Frobbits and their future, and they're trying to annihilate the the bad unicorn, which is Princess the Destroyer. I absolutely love this fantasy. It's so fun to read. My son gets a kick out of it because it is really funny. And then I did share with you guys already that I am currently in the middle of Wolves of Kala. So that was my wrap up. Hopefully that wasn't too long. I will leave timestamps down below just in case you don't want to listen to all of the books. And yeah, thank you so much for watching. Let me know down below what you read in the month of November. And that is it. I hope you guys have a wonderful rest of your week, and I will talk to you soon. Bye! I actually started this back in October with a friend, Maddie at the Maddie Hatter. I will leave her channel link down below. We did buddy